what's a day in the life of the dad dork, man? Like, what do you do for a living? Like, what's your
Oh, it's definitely not as exciting as you would think it would be. I mean, I'm an outside salesman for a leading manufacturer of packaged concrete here in Oklahoma, and so I sell to lumber yards and box stores, Lowe's and Home Depot and those type of customers, and I get to drive around and I'm blessed to sell a product that literally could sell itself, and I get to, make sure our customers are happy and act kind of as the liaison between the manufacturing facility and then our customers. And so I get to drive around and talk all day. John, I'm extremely blessed.
Oh,
So,
nothing wrong with that, and you're good at talking too. So it's like the perfect
well,
thing.
I think that's relative. I think that's relative, depending on who I'm talking to. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you, when you go in and you walk up to their homes, do you ring their doorbell and tell a dad joke, or like, like
Well,
what do you?
yeah, I don't walk up to homes. I walk into like retailers and
Okay.
distributors and like businesses.
Yeah.
And actually, I try to keep those two worlds separate. So the less people that I deal with from a professional standpoint that know about the dad dork, the better. But at some point, it did get out there, and some of my better customers like to give me a hard time about it. But it actually, I guess made them, I guess, eventually like me. I don't know.
Well, you're see that's the thing. Like I became a huge fan of your videos and your content. Like I said a year ago, and I started watching them. And there was a joke that your daughter said, and you made a video of it. I think it was your daughter about
Oh,
the jack o' lanterns.
that was a lot of people did think that that was my daughter, John, and it wasn't. It was just simply a somebody who was a follower, and she sent me the joke, and I loved it so much. It was actually from her parents. Her parents sent me the joke, and I loved it so much. I asked, "Hey, can I share it?" Because I love. It doesn't need to be just all about me. I want as many people like here in the neighborhood to come up and do dad jokes in my neighborhood or send them to me, and
Yeah.
I just want my platform to be about humor and laughter and fun. And so they said, "Yeah, go ahead." And that thing took off like hotcakes. People really responded to her. It was
That was
awesome.
yeah. See, this whole time I thought that was your kid, and I was like, oh man, like because I tell that joke every time I tell a dad joke. It's always like, hey, what do you call a pumpkin that goes to the gym? And they're like, what? And I'm like, a jack o' lantern. I
Mhm.
tell them like that's like my most told joke of all time. I think
Yeah.
is that joke. So the fact that it wasn't even your daughter, man, I was like, wow, that's just crazy, dude.
Oh
But
yeah. She sent me a couple, John. Her parents have sent me a couple, and she's great. I mean, I would love for at some point when people are tired of me. Here you go. Here's the torch. Uh, you know,
pass it on down.
absolutely.
What got you into dad jokes? Like what got you into what started the dad dork persona? Like what started that for you?
Honestly, John, it was all by accident. It was not something that I went out and pursued. The story goes like this, and it's kind of crazy. Is I just installed like Vivint, the security home camera system. I always wanted to have a doorbell camera on there just for security reasons. And from a personality standpoint, I've always been kind of an idiot as far as just wanting to make people laugh, practical jokes, not taking myself too seriously, and sometimes that's gotten me in trouble. Sometimes it's been a benefit, depending on who you talk to, and had to deal with me growing up. But as soon as that was installed, I'm like putting my hose up, doing the typical dad thing. I just watered the yard, and I put the hose up, and the thing had just been installed that night, and all of a sudden I hear this camera recording, and something in my mind just went off, and thought, "Oh my gosh, I've got an audience," even though it's just my family. And so I went up to it and I just started singing, singing into it, and I was like, "What are you recording?"
Oh boy.
Yeah, just being an idiot, And I was just going to show my family, and I did, and they were like, like they do it with a lot of my stuff, like they kind of humored me, and
Me too.
then the next day I decided to go up and just do a dad joke and share it with them, and I can't remember who told me that I should share it, but I had my own personal Instagram account. That was the only social media that I did. was just my own personal. And so I started posting it on there and getting good feedback. And then when I got to the point where people, and I did it a few more times, and then you could tell people were kind of getting like, okay, why don't you start your own little account, where you do these stupid clips. And so I did, and I made it public, and I did it on Instagram and TikTok. And I had no idea it was not me that blew this thing up. I honestly believe that, John. It was the good Lord, and He used this platform to reach people and give them humor. Because I started it kind of the latter part. It was the first part of 21 when we were still going through the pandemic, and people were still kind of bummed out and not in a great place. So after going through that, I was like, hey, if this takes off, and I don't care what people think of me. I mean, I get plenty of feedback that I'm I'm an idiot and I'm embarrassing myself and things like that. But it's not me. I'm just a vessel. I'm just a conduit for the Lord. Is how I truly feel about all of this bad dorks stuff. So
that's so cool, man, because everything you do, you have to do it for God, and that's the whole thing that's the whole point of my podcast and mine and my wife's ministry that we have called Stitches of Hope. Everything that we do, we feed the community and we serve people, but we do it with the heart of Jesus. Yeah. How Jesus would serve people and how Jesus would not judge somebody based off of how they look, but He would go and He would take care of them. And that's what we do for our ministry too. We go and we make people smile, and we give them different little crochet things like this one right here that my wife makes. She makes these, and we go and we see little kids that might be having a bad day, and we go and we hand it over to them.
I love it. And,
that's our whole ministry. And then in the wintertime in Wisconsin, I do not go outside unless I'm working. So like God told me, hey, you're going to be doing podcasts. This is what I want you to do in the meantime of not going out and doing this, because that way you're spreading the gospel one way or another. But I get a lot of people, especially a couple of days ago, people are in here trolling and nasty comments, and you being like a person of joy and happiness and dorky, if you want to say. What do you do, like for me, because I'm a new upcoming podcaster, and you've been doing it for a while since the pandemic. What do you do to get rid of the naysayers and to like block out the negative? Because I'm sure you get negative comments.
Oh yeah. I just you can't let it get to you, especially if you feel like if you're doing something that's right and that's correct and that is just, and if you're doing it for a better purpose and a better reason than self, if you're doing it for in your heart for the Lord and to serve others, and you feel like it's a ministry, then you can't let them get to you. I kill them with kindness. I used to be more, because I can be sarcastic, and I used to be more ornery about, they'd go on some long diatribe. There'd be some legalistic Christians that would get after me, but there'd also be some people that wanted to give me their opinion on, faith and how God's not real and so on and so forth. And they would just, at the end of it, I would just say, do you feel better? Do you feel better? And then I'd throw them, well, God loves you anyway. Jesus loves you anyway. I kill them with kindness. And the main one that I get thrown at me, John, is accusations of being on drugs. That cracks me up. It's like, oh my gosh, what a meth head. Or how's that cocaine, and they'll just like, because of how I act, a lot of them don't understand that it is an act and a character. And so I get a lot of those accusations, which always cracks me up. And I just kill them with kindness, because, I mean, what good is it going to do to let them get me fired up? Now, when I was younger, before I was, going to church, and before I was, I guess Lance BC or whatever, I would have definitely fired back at them and, enjoyed the back and forth. But man, I don't have room for that anymore. And life's too short. And I just, like I said, I'm not going to take this, whatever this is, the social media thing that I've, that I'm stewarding. I'm not going to take it too seriously. I mean, I'm just not. So
yeah. So tell me about Lance before Christ. Tell me about your life and how your childhood was, and And have you always been dorky, or has it kind of just started coming once you got to know Jesus? Tell me all about that.
Oh no, I've always been, like I said, lovingly an idiot. I mean, I have always is I've always been silly. I've always liked to laugh. Comedy, like if you give me a choice of some type of music, uh, a movie to watch, it's always going to be comedy. I just have always loved to laugh and make people laugh. So, but Lance, before I really started following Jesus, it was a typical good upbringing. We just didn't go to church growing up. We believed in God, but we just weren't a church family. And so, and I had all the temptations that most kids do, and I got into all the stuff that a lot of boys do. I grew up in the '80s and '90s. Before there were cameras, before there were tracking devices, and I hate to say it, we could have more fun and not get caught. And so I took full advantage of that. And I'm lucky to be alive, especially in my high school years. Just the things that I got into, it was pretty standard. Nothing that I should be in prison for or anything like that. But just really just stupid, idiotic teenage stuff. But um, the one church experience that I think a lot of people can relate to is I was pretty decent at sports, and some of my buddies asked me to play basketball at their church.
Yeah.
And it was Assembly of God. I knew nothing about denominations. I knew nothing about really church other than that's where you go and talk about God and Jesus and everything like that. And so they sold me on it, John. They were like, hey, all you got to do is come to Wednesday student worship, and it's on Wednesday nights. We'll eat, we'll hang out, and then we'll sing a little bit, and that's all you got to do. And then you can play basketball. And I was like, cool, because that's all I want to do is play basketball. Well, my buddies didn't explain to me what it meant, or they didn't explain to me what they did, and they should have warned me because it sent me running out of there. Because after we started worshiping and singing, these guys that I grew up with my entire life, they started talking in tongues. And I have no judgment, or it's not my place to make any kind of critique of any way that a person worships the Lord. But if you're not prepared for that, John, especially being in the world and not growing up in church, that will get your attention. And I was just like, what is going on? And so I just ran out, and they were so mad at me. They're like, that was rude. That was rude. I can't believe you left like that. My pastor was so upset. And I'm like, you guys should. So anyway, to wrap that up, it really scared me off of church. That was my first, I guess, like in-person impression of church. And that stereotype stuck with me. And fast forward into my oldest son, Mason, being 6 years old. And I'd kind of, as you get older, you mature and you have life experiences, and you're like, God, there's got to be more than this. And I need to be the best parent that I can. And you just want to really be the best example you can for your kids and your wife, as a husband. And my son Mason was like, Dad, how come we don't go to church? And I had nothing. I had nothing for him, So I heard about this church, Life Church. We still attend there this day. And this is how sad I was, Johnny. I heard, oh, they meet on Saturdays. Oh, they don't have a dress code. They have tea. They have donuts. So all the things, the wrong reasons why I should have been, wanting to go to a church. But I was hooked as soon as I went there. I mean, it was just fantastic, and I'm sure everybody can relate to this. You just get this warm feeling, and you're like, there's something different. There's something different. And when the pastor is telling a message lovingly, it's like he's talking directly to you, and just kept going. And then I just felt, the transformation that everybody that's a Christian has experienced. So,
well, it sounds like you've been a Christian your whole life.
I believed in God. I believe in
whole
God.
life. Yeah.
Yes.
But see, it is weird though, because like for example, I've spoken in tongues. I've been baptized by the Holy Spirit. I have done these things, but like my dad, he is skeptical on it. And so when, like how you said, you ran away from it because you were like, well, what the heck is this? Like you're not familiar with it. That's something you never heard of before.
No.
A lot of Christians that they're so used to churches that have the hymn books, and they're a lot of them are scared of that kind of thing because it's a gift from God. Not many people get to experience that, like personally.
Yeah.
Um, it's tough to have that as a Christian and be like, man, what is this? I never even heard of this before. Because that's a really bad first impression. Your friends probably should have told you that the church is baptized in the Holy Spirit, and there's a possibility of hearing people speak in a language that you're not familiar with.
Yeah, I mean, I wish they would have, but again, they were kids, they were teenagers.
Well, yeah, yeah,
They
yeah.
didn't they didn't know any better, so I don't blame them. And then I truly feel like that was part of my journey, John. Like being scared off or standoffish, everything wouldn't have worked out like it did with essentially my son, my oldest son, being the motivating factor for me to get into church when I did, which led me to Life Church, which I'm a big part of now. And so everything happened for a reason in that respect. But
Oh, definitely.
yeah, that's essentially my story, and I'm still a work in progress. You know,
I don't know why you have that. You got that personality of a pastor.
Oh,
So like the whole time that I was like, oh yeah, Pastor Lance, and I'm thinking, you know what? I don't think he's ever told me that he's a pastor before. So like I'm thinking to myself, I was telling my wife, I'm like, is he like I should probably find out before I introduced him as Pastor Lance, and you're like, hold on there, buddy. I
mhm.
ain't a pastor. Don't put me that high up there, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know that there'd be a church in existence in the country that would put me in charge of pastoring. That's just not me. But I appreciate it. It's very flattering.
Well, you just walk up there and then you'll be your whole your dad dork persona, and people would be like, "Oh man, this guy is amazing." They keep coming back to you.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, but those just like those videos are like 30-second to a minute clips. I mean, that only lasts so long.
so what is? I have a couple more. I have a lot more questions
Go
for you,
ahead. Go
but
ahead.
the main one I have for you is, what's your favorite dad joke?
Okay, this gets me in trouble with my wife because I am a big fan of toilet humor, and so I don't know if you're okay with me telling a couple of toilet humor. I mean, they're clean. All
I
my
Well, I hope the toilet's clean.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. There you go. I like
Yeah,
it.
right. Ah, look at that.
Yeah, I hope the toilet's clean. But the two that have resonated with people the most are both toilet humor, and I guess that just says a lot about humanity and mostly dads. But the one that actually took off on TikTok, and I guess whatever viral means that this happened, but it's the one where I walk up and I said, just got back from the church, heard a good one. Do trees poop? Do they poop? Well, of course they do. How would we get number two pencils?
I told that joke to, I think it was my daughter,
Uh huh.
and
Yeah.
she looked at me and she said, "Oh bother," and she walked away.
Oh, bother?
And
Yeah.
and I'm pretty sure I said that joke to my wife too before, because I listen to your jokes all the time, and I'm thinking to myself like, I listen to them, and then I take off running, and I'm kind of a chubby guy, so I'm trying to run at least. And I'm like, by the time I get from the kitchen to the bedroom and tell my wife a dad joke, I'm like out of breath already. I'm like, wait 1 second, let me tell my joke real quick. And then I go and I told the number two pencil joke. I've told like a bunch of other jokes that you've said before, and I get the same reaction from my kid. She goes, "Oh bother." In fact, she told me today, she's like, "Don't learn any more dad jokes, Dad." And, and I'm like, "Well, I'm talking to the dad joke king, so I'm most likely I'm going to learn more jokes from you." So you
Well,
know,
there's another one. I don't know if you've told it, but the other one that has had the most views is toilet humor related as well, and it's the one that how do you say constipation in German?
how?
Far from pooping.
Oh yeah, I heard that one too.
And then I go far from pooping, and I don't
Oh,
know how many, I don't know how many people responded and said, "You sound Swedish. That's not German." And that to me just made it even
it
more
did. I
more
remember
funny.
watching. I remember watching that too. I go through, like I said, I go through all your videos and learn new dad jokes just to go and irritate my family because I know it does.
That's our
Uh,
job. That's our job.
it is,
Yeah.
but it's funny though because like when me and my wife got married in 2020,
Mhm.
like we got married. I'm from Louisiana, so we went to Louisiana and got married, and
Okay.
she bought a dad joke book
Yep.
that had like thousands of dad jokes.
Mhm.
And I think she told me them like a lot, like as we drove from Wisconsin to Louisiana, and
Oh
she
yeah.
kept on with the dad joke books,
Mhm.
and it got on my nerves. So for a little bit, I did not like dad jokes. I was like, dude, I'm like, just stop with them already. They're getting on my nerves. I pretended to open the door to the car and jump out because it's so annoying, and and now I'm over here like, dude, like I learned this new dad joke today, and I watch other people called Dad's USA or something like that. I don't know,
Yeah.
but I watch them too, and they tell dad jokes, and I learned. I'm like, dude, finally, I'm learning these dad jokes where like I'm not going to be irritated with them. I can just go and irritate other people with them.
Yeah. Yeah. You
Oh,
can get burnout on them, and yeah, you can get burnout on them. And I will say, I don't, because I've been asked this before. I don't make up any of the jokes. I mean, I think dad jokes are just fair game for everybody to regurgitate them, especially dads. None of them are made up. Excuse me, on my own. It's either from a book or uh, there's a platform called Dad Says Jokes, and they've got a lot of followers, and I follow them, and so I just regurgitate a lot of stuff, but I try to add my own little spin to it
yeah.
with the antics. So
What is? All right, I got a dad joke for you right now.
yeah, yeah.
What does a son computer call his father?
What does a son computer call his
Yeah.
father?
Yep.
Uh-uh.
Data.
Oh,
You get it?
that's
Data,
good.
data.
That's good. Yeah, yeah. I
Oh,
like it.
dude.
I like it.
Like, yeah, when I heard that, I was like, man, this is. I definitely got to tell. I got to tell Lance this joke. I really have to. You
I,
know.
I love it. And for me, John, the cornier the better. The cornier the better, because if you can make someone like physically go,
Yeah. Or make them want to jump out of the car. Like when my
yeah,
wife was doing it to me, I'm like, dude, I'm just going to jump out. I don't care
mhm,
if it's an auto lock on the door. I'm just going to like break through the window or something. I'm getting tired of the dad jokes, and now I'm like
yeah,
over here. Man, I love dad jokes. In fact, I want to look up more of them right now. I'm kind of like it becomes addictive in a way, but then they're all clean humor. They're funny. They're not these dirty jokes or nothing like that, where kids are going to be like thinking there's a bunch of perversion going on, like the rest of the world is with comedians. And that's why I like you so much because you're clean. You
uh,
know, like your jokes are not. I mean, besides the toilet jokes, might be a little bit dirty,
yeah,
but like, no, I'm joking. Get it dirty. Never mind.
yeah, dirty toilet, yeah, mhm.
I tried. I heard crickets is all I heard. It's okay. I'll get
Yeah.
into it. But no. So you told me your favorite dad joke. What
Mhm.
is your favorite Bible verse?
Oh wow! And here's another. I talked with you about how I'm kind of still on my journey and my walk. I've read through the entire New Testament, John, because I was told that really that's the best way to do it, because you want to learn about Jesus first. Then when you go back and read the Old Testament, it will make more sense to you. And that absolutely has been that in my case. And I'm not somebody that can regurgitate a bunch of scripture. But I do like one, and I can't even tell you the number. This is how, I don't know. As Christians, a lot of us, myself included, feel like we need to do a better job if we can't recite, just passage after passage and scripture after scripture. But I do like the simple one, and I know it's in Ephesians, but uh, for it has been for it is by grace you've been saved. For it is by grace you've been saved, and I think it's Ephesians. Again, like I don't know the number.
That's all we need to know.
Yeah, yeah.
By Jesus' grace, by his sacrifice,
Mhm.
we have been saved. And that should be enough for anybody, non-Christians and Christians alike. It's
It is for me. It is for
yeah.
me.
Well, me too.
Mhm.
And I have one. I have two of them. So I have Psalms 23:4. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I'll fear no evil, for God is with me.
Mhm.
And that's been my favorite Bible verse since I was in a horribly abusive relationship back in 2009. Because that whole time in the dark valley that I was in, God was always there with me no matter what.
Yeah.
And that was my reminder. And this year I have a favorite Bible verse of the year, which is Romans 12:2, which is do not conform to the world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind through Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but like you're saying about the Bible, I have a hard time remembering anything in the Bible.
Yeah.
And like I remember certain verses that pop up, and when God tells me to look up a verse, I hear His voice saying it, and I do it, and it usually means something pretty powerful.
Mhm.
But like I would consider myself to be, I don't say a strong Christian because it sounds arrogant, but a Christian that is growing daily in the Lord. And I still don't know. I can't even quote you 10 scriptures really, 10 verses.
Yeah.
And it's because like I try to read, and when I'm reading, it goes into my brain, and then it kind of just goes away, and that's it really sticks to me.
Mhm.
And last year, it was back in 2021. I tried to read the whole book of the Bible from Old Testament all the way to Revelations,
Yeah.
and I got pretty far. I got up to, oh man, I want to say like a year and a half, 2 years of reading straight.
Mhm.
But then it just got to where like it was the Old Testament, and if you know anything about the Old Testament, it's very gruesome and very. Uh, a lot of people get scared away from God if they read strictly the Old Testament,
Yes.
because it's about being stoned to death. It's about just different things because that was before Jesus' time. We didn't have Jesus' grace and sacrifice.
Yeah.
We had God's wrath is what we had, and that's what people saw the Old Testament as. And so I read that, and I was like, man, I just want to like, I don't want to jump from like Old Testament to New Testament. And then I just kind of stopped, and I'm like, I wish I wouldn't have, because New Testament is so much more inspiring and uplifting, because that is when you see the great sacrifice of Jesus and Him being resurrected and back to life and saving all of us.
Absolutely, John. And I'll just be transparent. If I would have started, in my journey, if I would have started with the Old Testament, I don't know that I could have finished it because I didn't know Jesus, and I didn't know, Jesus' story before I read the Old Testament. I think that was the best advice anybody could have given me was read the Gospels first, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Learn everything you can about Jesus, finish the New Testament, and then go back. And it does. And of course, I'm on a Bible reading plan that's considered like, I think they call it the Bible recap. And there's an explanation after, every few chapters. And that has been just instrumental in me understanding, yeah, this is hard to read. And the lineage, the lineage part of Genesis, that was tough to get through for me, because I didn't understand. But then when they explained, like this is explaining, how Jesus got here from a human standpoint, then I was able to get through it. But yeah, your initial question was what my favorite scripture was, and I couldn't even tell you the number, but I just know that one sticks with me. For it's grace we've been saved.
It's all we need, though.
Yeah,
it's all we need, and
yeah,
like man, like I've been through, like I said, an abusive relationship where like I've experienced demons
man,
out of my ex girlfriend. Like I've been beat and punched in the face by him. I had a gun pointed to my head by a demon through her, and they pulled the trigger, and thankfully, it didn't go off. But like I've experienced so much of the supernatural part
mhm,
of Christianity. Of like I've seen angels before, I've seen demons, I've seen them both. I fought the devil. Like it was, but like at the time, like I was an on the fence Christian,
mhm,
and when you're so on the fence, but you still think that you have the Holy Spirit in you, and you're like, man, I can just get rid of these demons right away from her because I have the Holy Spirit. I
yeah,
remember one time she was beating me nonstop. She was hitting me. She was cursing me out and everything. And I went and I tried to rebuke the demon out of her. And I remember like it was yesterday because it was one of the most powerful things that happened in my life. I tried it. I said, in Jesus' name, be gone, demon. And she looked at me, turned her head, her eyes went black. It's crazy to understand this because these are like supernatural things.
Wow.
But her eyes went black, and the demon spoke through her and said, "You have no power over me. You're living in sin. You're on the fence. You're at no power because you're not close with Jesus. If I was close with Jesus, I wouldn't be in that situation that I was in."
Yeah.
So like, for me, like man, my spirituality and my faith in God has only gotten stronger because of my testimony and what I've went through and what God had to have me go through
Mhm.
to be where I'm at today, to be happily married with 2 kids. And unfortunately, one kid I don't see that much because she lives 3 hours up north, but I still love her the same. And
Of course.
it's tough being a dad that
Mhm.
is away from, like, she's my oldest kid, she's 11, and it's tough being away from her like all the time. I would rather her be here with me because I don't
Yes.
know if her mom really teaches her that much about Jesus.
Mhm.
And like I'm the spiritual leader as a man. Like I believe a man should be the spiritual leader in the family.
Mhm.
It's tough for me to be like, okay, well, my youngest daughter, she's on fire for God. She preaches to people. She draws pictures of Jesus and everything, and she's an on fire for God little girl. She's 8 years old.
That's awesome.
But my oldest daughter, like I feel so let down. Not let down, but I feel like I could do better. I
Yeah.
feel like I could have her with me,
Mhm.
and she could be on the same level of Jesus as my youngest daughter is. But it's all going to take time, and I got to realize that it's all in God's plan. To everything that He does is a testimony.
It is, John. But I want to just encourage you to give yourself some grace because I'm a little further ahead of you as far in parenting. I've got a 25 and a 21-year-old uh, sons. I have two sons, and they're 25 and 21. And parenting's hard, man. Parenting's hard, whether you have Jesus in your life or not. Parenting's hard, and there's no manual, there's no playbook. That's all we can do is the best we can, and try to point them in the direction that we think they can. And like I've told this analogy to my boys countless times, is if you'll just listen to me, I trust me, you will be so much better. I'm like that guy. Think of me walking ahead of you on a pathway, right? And I'm maybe like 10 yards in front of you. And I'm looking back at you and I'm like, hey, there's a landmine right there. You want to walk around that because I walked through it and it blew up. But if you don't walk around it, that's on you, dummy. Just you know, the way I would tell my boys, like, just please, listen to me. But if they don't, that's all we can do is the best we can. And I personally don't know, especially as my boys got older, I don't know how people make it without faith because this world is it's just so tough and divisive, and there's just so many things that are trying to bring you down and take you down. And I don't know how people do it without some type of faith and help from the Lord, essentially walking with you and the Holy Spirit being in you. It's a tough world out there for sure. So
It is. It's man, I see it on a daily basis. I see people get angry because we do delivery work for a living, and I see it all the time where like people cut you off and they start cursing you out, or people just you can see the anger and the hatred of people by how they drive and how they react to your driving and just the impatience. Like for me, as example, like I'm a very impatient man. I'm working on it. It's a work in progress. That's like
understood.
that's one of my biggest things is like if something's gotta get done, it's gotta get done now, or it's gotta get done when I feel like it should be getting done.
Yeah.
Then God's always convicting me and reminding me, hey, no, and that's not how it works.
Yeah.
It's not about our timing. It's about God's timing, and it's tough, man. It's tough when you try your best and you still feel like, hey, as a dad, we gotta hide our emotions and we gotta hide all this other stuff because we're the strong ones. We're the leaders, emotionally, figures, physically, emotionally, spiritually, all that. We're the leaders of the family.
Yep.
And when we look weak, it brings down the family to look weak.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I think that's our mindset. I don't know if you feel that same way, but
Oh, I think every dad feels that way. Yeah, I mean, we've got to not only lead the family, we got to be good examples, and that's not always easy because we're imperfect and broken, and we screw up just as much, if not more than everybody, you know. So
yeah, we have our own problems. We're like, you know what? Our problems they don't matter as much right now. My worry is always my family being taken care of, and but we gotta just let go of that. I guess manliness or pride or whatever you call it. I don't know,
yeah,
but we gotta just just be able to show our emotions and our struggles and talk to our spouses, our wives, and
okay.
to let them know that hey, we do struggle. Like it's a normal thing for men. And
Mhm.
I love that your thing is called the dad dork. Like being a dad is very important to me. And I can tell that it's very important to you too.
It's the most
Um,
important. It's the most important job that we have. Yeah.
what's the proudest moment that you can think of between your two sons? Like a proudest dad moment of your life.
Wow, wow, that's a great question. I mean, obviously, I mean, you know, as a dad, there's nothing like the day they're born. I mean, especially like when you're first when you first see your son or your first child or your first daughter or whatever, just that realization that, oh my gosh, there's not only a tiny human that is half me, but now I'm responsible for that. You know, and you get that, and then initially, you know, your first one, like, I don't know how I have enough space for, you know, for a second one or a third one or whatever, but then you just do, and that there's nothing, there's nothing stronger than a parent's love. And so, I mean, I know this kind of, you know, isn't as exciting, but I would say the day they were born, John. I mean, there's nothing that compares to that, you know, from
There really isn't, and I would have to agree. Like it's the proudest moment is of course when like for me is when my daughter got baptized. Like that was one of the proudest moments of my life because my daughter and my wife both got baptized at the same time. So that was really proud for me. But
yeah,
like you said, the day that they were born, it's just wow. Like like this is my child. You
yeah.
know, this is my like you said, half genetics. Like this is she has my last name. She was born into my last name. Like this is amazing, and being there for the birth of my youngest kid, it was beautiful.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
it's pretty special. And then and of course, you know, any of their big accomplishments. I mean, those rank right up there. I did have the blessing of getting to baptize both my boys, and that's something that I'm sure that you can relate. You know, when you're at church, or most people can relate when you're at church, and you're watching other new Christians get baptized, and the celebration. You just that moment just keeps keeps replaying in your mind. Like I remember when I got to baptize my boys, and as men, you know, we got to keep it, you know, inside. We're not gonna shed a tear or anything like that. But
oh, I
it
cried.
makes it makes me break down when I'm at church, and I see a similar scenario play out. I always relive when I got to baptize my boys, and you know, just other big accomplishments that they have, just the pride you have as a parent when they do something, you know,
Yeah,
do something great that makes them happy, because that's all we want for them to be happy. And that kind of circles back to why my number one thing, and my number one interest in being a dad is make them laugh, because laughter, I feel, can cure a lot of things. I mean, I know that's not groundbreaking, but I mean, anything that you're going through or anything that's tough, I've been accused of, like, can't you be serious? You know, can you ever be serious? You know, but I'm always trying that angle of how can I make this serious or awkward moment better by lightening the mood. You know, I will make myself look like an absolute fool if other people can benefit from it. And I've gotten even worse as I've gotten older. I mean, because as you get older, I don't know how old you are, John, but
I'm 36.
oh, good grief, you're a kid. I'm 50, and as you approach, like half a century, you just cared less and less what people think, and I don't anymore. I just don't care, and so
Yeah,
that can be good and bad. That can be good and bad.
man. It's
So I'm
just
told.
I didn't hear you. What was it?
I said, so I'm told it can be good
Oh,
and bad. So
yeah. I remember though, like when my daughter got baptized and my wife did, my mom was there with us, and I cried. I cried like a freaking baby, dude.
sure.
Like my eyes were just, it was just a waterworks. It was like Niagara Falls through my eyeballs, dude. It
Yeah,
was,
that's good.
and it's because of, it's just everything that me and my wife had been through when it comes to like, we were homeless before and like all the struggles that we've been through in our relationship and marriage. And
Wow.
we always come out on top and we always come out glorifying God.
Hmm.
And it's just, we were like, okay, well, all the stuff that we have been through had made us stronger as a married couple, and it's only made our daughter stronger too because she sees that we're coming out of these struggles that we've been. Sometimes we put ourselves into, but other times we can't help it. And we try our best to be the positive examples, even through the struggle times of homelessness and of people spread rumors about us about different scenarios that we had, and we had one type of scenario is we got a dog. It was a collie. I love collies. I think they're so beautiful.
Mhm.
But the collie that we got was raised to be an aggressive dog,
Okay.
and the collie bit me in the stomach and bit my like tried to bite my daughter's face.
Hmm.
And I talked to the lady. I said, "Hey, I said, unfortunately, we can't have the dog here. Like, I love her, I love him. He's beautiful, but he's, something's wrong with him. We don't know what's the matter with him." And so she says she didn't want him, and we're like, "Okay, well, I found a rescue that would take him." And I don't know what happened, but like we were bringing him to the rescue, and she posted on Facebook how we kidnapped or dog napped the dog, and rumors started flying that we were dog nappers and we were all this other stuff. And I was receiving death threats upon death threats and different messages from people saying if you don't return the dog, I'm going to sue you or I'm going to hurt you. And that was one of like the lowest parts of our marriage. It was crazy because we saw how evil people really were
Mhm.
when they believed anything they saw on social media.
Mhm. Yeah.
And we finally got like one of my best friends messaged her and was like, "Hey, he's bringing the dog back. Like, leave
Mhm.
him alone. Like,
Yeah.
stop the false assumptions of everything."
Yeah.
And, we brought the dog back. Unfortunately, I wish we wouldn't have. I wish we would have brought him to the rescue. Probably would have been a lot better situation for him.
Yeah.
But man, like, it's just to do that and to go through all that stuff and to have your kid be on like right by the side of you for doing that,
Mhm.
it's tough to explain to her like, hey, like we're going through a hard time because she could see us crying and she could see us hurt and because she was old enough. I think she was like 3 or 4 at the time, so
Mhm.
she knew something was going on, and it was tough to see all that happening. And we're like, man, like we just gotta stop all this because at the time my focus was not on Jesus.
Mhm.
And when Peter was walking on water, what
Mhm.
was the one thing that he did? Do you know what he did?
What'd you say?
When Peter was walking on water, right?
Oh,
And he took his focus off of Jesus.
when he doubted and he looked down, then he sank. He sank absolutely.
And I feel like that's what happened to us. Our focus was off of Jesus. It was on the dog. I was huge into politics back then, which was a whole different story. And I got out of that. Thank God for that. But like, my focus was not nowhere near the Lord.
Yeah. Well,
And
that's what the evil one does. Is he tries and will do anything to distract you and keep you off your focus of Jesus. And that's what I was going to say. What you were going through, I just wanted to interject. I mean, it's a broken world, and if you and your wife can make it through the things you're describing, John, that's an unbreakable bond. And props to you guys. That's very impressive.
it is, man. It's crazy though. And like I'm gonna stop all the sappy stuff. I want to talk to you about something more funnier.
You're fine. You're fine.
No,
I'm,
so
I'm here for you, buddy.
well, I know that, and I'm here for you too, and I'm really enjoying this podcast. but I don't want to take too much of your time, brother. I really it's been
It's a Friday. It's a Friday night in the big town, and you know,
in the big town.
yeah, yeah.
What do you live in the? Do you live in the city or do
Yeah,
you live in the country?
Oklahoma City, Oklahoma City,
Oh, dang! So you live right there, in the heart of Oklahoma.
right in the heartland. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Wait, hold on one second. What is going on? Can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you fine.
For some reason, my TikTok was saying, "Please verify who you are." I don't know what was going on. That was weird.
Yeah, yeah.
So you said you have two sons, right?
Yes.
Do you have any daughters at all?
No daughters. No, we stopped at two. We kind of went into parenting like, whatever we're blessed with, regardless of, two girls, two boys, whatever. That's we're going to stop at two. And yeah, two boys. And I joke that, God does have a sense of humor, and there's a reason why he gave me two boys, because he looked at me and he said, "You're going to get your payback. I know what you did." And it absolutely
Oh.
came. It came to fruition for sure. I got my payback.
Are you a grandpa yet?
No, no. My oldest son got married last October, and they just bought a house. So I know that's in my future, and I kind of can't wait. I mean, I don't want them to go to do anything before they're ready. That's the advice that we're giving them. Like, don't rush into it. But you'll appreciate this. I've already got my grandpa name picked out.
What's your grandpa? I want to hear it. I want to hear it.
Poopaw.
Poop.
Poopaw. I want to be Poopaw Lance. Isn't that doesn't it have a nice ring to it?
Poop.
Poopaw.
Hey, come here real quick and say poo paw.
Poopaw. Hey, Poopaw's got something for you. Pull my finger.
I was literally going to ask you. You're going to tell them to pull your finger. Like I was about to
Of
like
course. Of
pull,
course.
pull poo paw's finger real quick.
Yeah, and I'll have one of those. I'll be nice. Toot machines. I'll have one of those toot machines already ready. So when they pull it, and yeah. I've already got my. There seems to be pushback on that from my sons and my wife, but I'm standing firm. I want it to be
You,
Poopaw.
you, yeah, just stand firm on it. Be called poo paw. Like I
Poopaw
think
Lance.
I think when my daughters are old enough, I'm gonna do the same exact thing. I like the name poo paw. Like don't call me grandpa or pawpaw or
Nope.
pappy or whatever else.
No. No.
Call me poo paw. Like
Call
what
me
the
Poopaw. Poopaw. And I'm pushing for my wife to be Meemaw, and she's not having any part of it.
you
She's like, I am not a Meemaw.
me ma. Oh man, that's oh dude, that is hilarious.
Yeah.
But like me and my wife, we have a kid of our own together, and we want another one. And sometimes I think to myself, like I'm 36, like am I too old? Am I too old to be a dad? Like, because by the time I'm like 50 years old, my kids are gonna be getting into high school, and they're gonna be like, "Hey, is that your peepaw over there, or poopaw?" Or
Is
I'm
that,
gonna say, "No, I'm her his or her dad." Like, what do you know?
is that Poopaw over there? Is that your grandpa or your dad? Yeah.
Because I get that already, dude. I was swimming, right? Oh man, I remember this. This little kid was like swimming right next to me and my daughter, and she looks at my daughter and she goes, "Is that your grandpa right there?" I'm like, "No, dude." I got offended. I was like, "How old was I? I think I might have been like 34, 34." And I didn't have a shaved head or nothing, but I had a lot of gray. It's because of these kids, bro.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 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 They'll age you. They'll age you a good decade ahead of what your chronological age is.
Because back when I was a teenager, I had a head full of hair. I was emo. I had the emo swoop going on.
Oh
I
yeah.
was rocking the eyeliner and everything, and then all of a sudden, I have a kid, and I started getting gray in my beard, and
John, they will suck the cool right out of you. Like whatever you had that was anything cool, they'll just take it right out of you. Yeah, I had a similar story about that. That's kind of funny. My wife teaches. Well, she teaches early ed, and so she was teaching pre-K at a school. This was probably a good 10 years ago, and I don't know how teachers at that age do it, but I mean, because I walked in and it looked like she was herding cats or something. But she calls it controlled chaos. She knew what was going on and everything was organized. So I'm just looking around and I'm trying to talk to my wife Shelly, and this little boy comes up to me and he looks up and he goes, "Are you Miss Howell's dad?"
Oh no, dude.
And I was just like, "What? Go, go play, go play in the corner or something." And
Yeah,
she thought it was hysterical, but
go jump off a swing or something. I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah. I mean, it's something I would have said at that age. So sense of humor, circle of life, yeah.
No, dude, like I've had that happen before too, where like me and my dad would be in the same place, and he has like the younger dad genetics,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and he has like not really. He dyes his hair, doesn't have a lot of gray hair anyway. He has a head full of hair at almost 70 years old, and I'm over here like I had thin on top, and I'm over here looking like a gray old man, and they're like, "Is that your brother?" And I'm like, "Dude, my dad is almost 70 years old. I am 36, or I was like 34 or whatever at the time too." I'm
Yeah.
like, "What are you?"
Hmm.
Is the gray, and in the Bible it talks about gray hair and the wisdom
There you
and
go.
everything, but I'm like, you know what? I'm not that wise,
Hey,
so.
hey, it's true because on the wisdom thing, John. Look, I'm still mostly brown. I'm not very wise, so you're a testament to that
I
that
I
wisdom.
don't I don't like Harry Potter, but sometimes I feel like a wizard. I tell you that. Like sometimes I feel like the gray hair. I've had it since I was like 20 years old.
Hmm.
Well, like it started getting worse. Like I said, as I had kids and everything, and I went through like a party phase, and I
Hmm.
would go to bars all the time, and I would never get carded. And I'm like, can you please just card me one time?
Let me feel good, please, please, Carmen.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I would go and buy cigarettes. I think that I quit. I'm 8 years sober, and I quit cigarettes 9 years ago. But like back in my mid 20s, I would go there and just wish that they would card me, and they never did.
Hmm.
I'm
Yeah,
like, dude, I'm like 25 years old. I could be 18 for all you know, like or 17. I mean, so,
yeah.
but it's just the old age, man. I don't know what it is, but I think whatever. So people thought that I was 40 in my
Hmm.
20s, but
Yeah.
now that I'm almost 40, and they say I'm 40, I'm be like, you're really not that far off.
I, I, I got to be honest with you, John. It's just a number. I mean, I mean, it's an important number because it's your chronological age. But I mean, people who know me will tell you that, yeah, he may be 50, but the way he acts, I mean, he's pushing 20. So I don't want to like I have a saying that grow up, but don't grow all the way up. And sometimes I can be accused of needing to grow up more, but I want to I want to try and always be as joyful and happy and ready to make somebody laugh if I can. And so don't worry about all that about how you look
I have a question for you.
yeah.
Are you always that energetic? Like, dude, you were over here doing this little number and spinning in circles, and it's
Are you?
hilarious. I like, even if you didn't tell the dad jokes, like I would still be laughing my butt off watching your content. Like, are you always that energetic when you like your daily life, or you just get a boost of energy all of a sudden?
Obviously that is amplified because I know that it's a skit, if you will. But no, so that's I kind of put it as like that is me. That character's me on steroids. So I mean, to an extent, and I do drink too much coffee. So I probably am a little bit too amped up on caffeine. But I'd say to an extent, but no one is that just over the top the entire time. But um,
I've seen some crazy lives on Facebook where people are just like for hours upon hours they're just like rah like going crazy and jumping around, and I'm thinking to myself like I'm getting tired just watching you like
yeah,
you
yeah,
know
that's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. That's why I just a minute to a minute 30 clips is really all I can do at that level. And And I do try to exercise, and so I think that helps me in that respect as well.
All
So
right, here's the most important question. One of the most important questions of the night.
okay,
How many takes does it take for you to make a single dad joke video?
I got to be honest. There are sometimes I'd say 80% of the time it's a single take. Um, yeah, there are some times where John, I don't like choreograph. I don't act it out. I might I might sit there and like then I kind of go through what I'm going to say. But a lot of the times, the antics and the jumping around and things you just talked about is all ad libbed. There are so many times where I look at it, I'm like, what? Why did why did I do that? Why did I slap my thigh, or why did I do that, or why did I twist and slap my? I don't know. It just kind of happens in the moment, and so I'd say 80% of the time they're done one take in one takes. But the thing that will just irk me to no end is sometimes the camera, because I do rely on the camera and its functionality. Sometimes the camera will like restart or reboot in the middle of what I think is like a good take, and I'll just be like,
Oh no.
oh, and I'll walk off, and then I'll laugh because I'm like, really, you're gonna get upset over that, and
Over
I'll just
something so
I'll laugh.
silly. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There've been some bloopers. There've been some bloopers, and I should keep the bloopers that I have, but you know, I don't.
You ever post them? You ever post the bloopers on there?
I
Just
do.
like,
I do have one. I do have one blooper post. I couldn't tell you the number. I try to number them to kind of keep them organized, but there is a blooper. There is a blooper one on my platforms. I couldn't tell you how
yeah,
far
I
back.
honestly think I might have watched it. I don't know. I think I've gone through a few of them and I watched them, and I think I might have watched that one. So it has, because I know TikTok is very strict on a lot of things. Has your account ever been like banned at all for doing these kind of jokes? Like they might have found them offensive for some reason, or is this your first actual account?
No, no, I have not had any kind of issues whatsoever, and that I guess that's a tribute to me wanting to keep it clean. Um, no, I've never had any issues. I TikTok was the one where I took off as far as followers, and I didn't really understand it. In fact, after that one went viral, it went so fast that it got scary to me. Like I was like, this is not what I intended for. I'd never signed up for this,
Yeah.
um, because I also felt a pressure. I mean, not real pressure, but like I felt an obligation to respond to every comment, and I still do to this day. Try to respond to every single comment as I can, whether it just be an emoji or whatever. I kind of feel like that's the respectful thing to do. If somebody can take the time out of their day to say something nice to me, then the least I can do is give them a reply. So that got to where my wife and I had to talk about. Okay, she's like, babe, you've been on that phone for 2 hours responding to comments. We got to figure something out. You've got a real. I'm just an average schmo that has a full time job, and I still had boys living in the house when this started. So I had to navigate that, and you know, set aside certain times for social media because, like I told you before, John, when I started this, I just had a personal Instagram account, and that's all I wanted. Like I didn't want any part of Facebook. I didn't want any part of drama or negativity or divisiveness. And social media can it's good and bad. It's like a lot of things of this world. Like it can take you down a dark road. You can abuse it. It can do some really bad things in this world if you let it, and if you're not being careful, or it can be really really good, and then you can connect with people, and like I'm trying to do is connect with as many people as I can, and spread positivity and joy and laughter and things like that. So
It's
uh,
it's tough, man, because like it all depends on how you treat it. Because like I had my first ever TikTok account. It got banned after probably about 6 or 7 months of me having it, but I had almost 50,000 followers on there,
Mhm.
And for me, I just started. I didn't really do any much of nothing, but I did something that was very controversial, and
Okay.
I did something that really it got a lot of people watching, a lot of eyes on me, and I posted a lot about politics and a lot about the Republican, the conservative, whatever nonsense that took over my life for a while, and I had so many followers, but they were all for the wrong reason.
Mhm.
And when that account got banned from TikTok because they were like, "Well, we don't like what you're talking about. We don't like what you believe in. We're going to get rid of you." I was like, "Man, I worked so hard," but then I'm like, I did it all for the wrong reason,
Mhm.
and God convicted me, and God got rid of that for me, and then I made another one, and that got banned, and that one had like 8,000 followers, and I started realizing a pattern, like, okay, all these are getting banned
Mhm.
because of what I'm posting about and what I'm talking about. Right now, I'm at like 2,500, but you know what? That 2,500 is strictly here to
Mhm.
listen to me talk about Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're here to watch my podcast and to listen to what I got to say about God and my stories and my testimonies.
Mhm.
I'm not here because of a political party or something they don't agree with.
Sure.
So when you look at social media and you try to take the good and the bad and see, which one do you fit in? For a while, it was the bad for me.
Mhm. Yeah.
And
Because
oh, go ahead.
no, I was going to say, I mean, from what you're telling me, it seemed like your other accounts, your initial accounts, you were doing it more for self than for service, correct?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and I was doing it for the wrong reasons, and I was doing it. I was a huge troll. I love to troll people back then, and I still do sometimes. I'll go and I'll try to battle. You can battle people on here, and I'll just stare at them, and I can do like a really good long staring contest. In fact, I think we can battle for one today. We can have a staring contest and see who would win.
I don't know. I don't know. That seems it seems like I'd just be signing up for a loss there. I think
I
you've
mean,
got
I,
me
think-
on
I
stare.
think my record was like a minute 30, so without blinking.
Yeah,
Um,
I wouldn't be able to. I wouldn't be able to
but
match
I
you.
mean, I still troll people that way. But at the same
Yeah.
time, like when I'm finally talking to them and they're like, okay, and they're about to get mad, I go, hey, I'm just joking around. And then I talk to them about their life because I love to hear about people's testimonies and their life stories
Yeah.
and where God has taken them and to where He's taken them right now from the past and how their progress has been. And I don't know if you have a sobriety journey or not, or if you don't drink or if you never drank before, or like what your story is when it comes to alcohol. But mine, I did it a lot and I partied a lot,
Mhm.
and I was a DJ at a bar. I was like one of the top DJs in my county. I loved it because I love people, and I had a microphone in my hand, and I was talking to people, playing good music that I thought was good, and I drank, and I did whatever I wanted to do because I was a single man. I didn't have any responsibilities before I had my first child, and I let alcohol just take over my life to where it ruined a lot of relationships and friendships, and it got me pretty far away from God. But like, I was so focused on partying and everything, I didn't really. I mean, I still love Jesus and I would still acknowledge him, but like, I was the true definition of an on the fence Christian.
Mm. Yeah.
And it's tough when you go down that road, um, because you're the life of a party to a lot of people, but you're so distant away from God. Like the people are just going to let you down because people let people down.
Yeah.
But the one that reigns superior, the one that reigns on top, is always going to be Jesus,
Mhm.
and God's the one that you have to answer to in Judgment Day, not your friends that pour liquor down your throat.
Amen.
You
Amen.
know,
Yeah.
so
But no, to
it's
answer your question, John, I mean, I can definitely relate to everything you said in regards to partying. I mean, I mean, um, when I mentioned earlier that it's absolutely a miracle that I'm still alive. I mean, what I was referencing was my early days and in my partying, and it was all alcohol based, and that the classic story of not remembering how you got home. When I'm in high school, so on and so forth, and I mean, again, it's only by the grace of God that I'm still here. So yeah, I've definitely went down that road as a young as a young man and partied too much and made dumb decisions and so but like we talked about, as you get older and you get further along being a parent, you just want to be better. You want to better yourself, and that's all that's all in those stages and those steps of your journey. And
Yeah.
so yeah,
Is so how I became sober is though like went to the bar one night and I came home and my daughter was in her crib sleeping and my wife was sleeping in the bed and I was drunker than a barrel full of monkeys and I walked inside stumbling and I saw my daughter on the bed in her crib and I looked and I thought to myself I cannot be this kind of dad. I cannot be this dad to my daughter to where I'm going to be coming home drunk all the time and drinking. So I told God, I said, hey, I said, if I ever get this drunk ever again in my life, I said, I want you to get me sicker than I've ever been before.
hmm
And I've never touched alcohol since then.
that's fantastic.
And, and that's something that like, it's tough though, because like when you have a bunch of friends that drink and that party, and now all of a sudden you're sober,
Yeah,
you realize that they weren't really friends to begin with
yeah,
because they leave, and they're like, well, he's no fun anymore because well now he's sober and he's on fire for God and yada yada yada, and I'm like, man, if you guys only knew like how alcohol was taking over my life,
yeah,
you would know, you
yeah,
know. You
yeah,
would know the struggle that it took to become sober and to finally give up all that nonsense and those addictions.
yeah.
And
Well, congratulations, man. That's a testament to you. That's very impressive. Good job.
it is. Hey, question for you though.
Yes, sir.
You said you've never been on TikTok Live before.
No, no.
Well,
This,
welcome to TikTok
this is
Live.
my first time being on TikTok Live. Like, um, on the subject of social media, I really just post for the most part. I'm not a scroller. I don't spend, countless hours on social media. I just post. There are people that I follow and will look at from time to time, but I try to set a limit, a very short limit on the amount of time I'm on there. And then if I have a new video out, I try to get them all on the four platforms that I'm on. And by the time all that's done, I'm like, well, I've met my limit that I want to be on here. So I'm not going to go scroll or anything like that. But no, I don't I don't do much on TikTok other than post. I gotta be honest with you.
Well, I know that I saw somebody in the comments they gave you a gift, so
Oh wow.
you can get gifts on here, and they're worth
Okay. Well,
some are worth a penny, but some are worth like big money, and I go here and I battle people on TikTok where you play games and you like whoever gets the most gifts wins the battle or something like that.
hmm,
And but when I do it, I talk to them and I want to hear their story. So like the battles are 5 minutes long, and I ask them like, tell me your life story, share your testimony with me in the 5 minutes that we're battling, because a lot of the times they'll battle you and then they'll mute you, and they'll talk to their chat, and they're like, that's what they do, and I'm thinking like, I'm not here to do that. I'm here to listen to your story and
sure.
to hear where how far God has brought you and everything.
Yeah.
But we're going to wrap this up. I got one final question for you,
Yeah.
and it's a doozy. You ready for it?
Okay.
Actually, it's a two-parter. So
Okay.
the first part is, what does Jesus mean to you?
Well, I mean, my Lord and Savior, and I mean, he's everything to me in regards to why I'm here. And some it takes longer than others to figure out why we're here, but I've learned that he is everything to me, and he starts God, Jesus, the Holy Spirit. They start up here. They're my number one, and I'm second. So I mean that's what Jesus means to me, and to me, he's the ultimate example of how we, as humans, as broken humans, need to try and live and exemplify how he lived when he was on earth. The 3 years he was here, we have to do our best to try and exemplify and and look to his example. And so that's what he means to me. I mean, I probably wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. So
Same. And then the last question of the night is going to be, what is your one message to your followers, to your friends, your family? If you had one message to tell people, like what would that be?
Love your neighbor. I am so big on neighbors. I mean, it is, I didn't used to be when I was a first, I was first in a neighborhood from a homeowner standpoint. I was probably one of those early homeowners that didn't pay attention, to who their neighbors were and wasn't interested in getting to know them or waving at them and things like that. But as I've gotten older, John, and as I've lived in this particular neighborhood that I'm in right now, it is a perfect example of how Jesus wanted us to live our lives. I mean, we have two basic commandments that we're supposed to live by, and that's love God and love your neighbor. And it took me a while because I'm so dense that I thought he was literally just talking about the two people on the side of me, and that's not what he's talking about. If we all love our neighbor, then we're all going to love each other. That's what he meant. Love humanity is what he was talking about, and that's my biggest deal with this entire platform. However long it lasts, if it goes away tomorrow, I'm good. But I want people to um, love other people. Life is too short, and we're only here, in a brief mist. And let's just all love one another and not be so divisive. I mean, it's just incredible how divisive the world has gotten.
It's
Um,
yeah, it's very sad, and I want you to do something for me if you don't mind.
what's that?
I'm I'm going to take you with me. We're going to go take a trip down my hall.
Okay.
No, I hold on one second.
Okay.
What's going on here? Hold on. TikTok's being weird. I need you to tell my wife and my daughter a dad joke.
Are you gonna put me on the spot? Um,
You could pick one before we go do this real quick. They can't hear you right now, so
okay. Hold on.
don't mind my messy kitchen.
Okay. Oh, you're fine. You're fine.
You got one?
Yep.
Okay. All right, we're gonna go over here. It's dark in here, so don't worry.
You're good.
All right, that's Anna.
Hi,
Hi, Anna. How are you?
doing good.
Good. You enjoying your Friday evening?
Yeah, me and my mom are actually watching the movie.
All right,
Oh, okay.
he's got something to tell you though.
What?
Anna, you want to hear a joke?
Sure.
What do you get when you cross an angry cow and a sad goat?
What?
Someone who's in a bad mood.
she she fell over.
That's about as corny as you can get.
There we go. Thank you so much for that because I had to do it because she's always giving me
Oh,
a
of
hard
course.
time.
Of course. I just wanted to, like, the reason it took me so long, remember, I'm 50 and my brain gets sputtering a little bit. I was like, okay, does it go cow first or goat second? And so I just had to get I had to get
Oh man.
the terms right. But yeah, yeah. That was awesome. Thank you.
Man, thank you so much for showing up here. I don't know if I was your first ever podcast or not.
I've just done a handful. And the way I look at it is if somebody wants to bring me on and discuss what I do, and let's have fun. Yeah, let's have fun. Let's spread some joy and especially talking about one of my favorite subjects, Jesus. Let's do it, man.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I really appreciate you. Thank you very much for hanging out.
Of course.
Hopefully you can come back on here again sometime soon.
Anytime, John. Just holler at me.
All right, one more question though
Yeah.
before I end this.
Mhm.
What is your plan with the dad dork?
Wherever it takes me. I have no immediate plan. Like John, I've been asked why don't I monetize it? Why don't I sell products? I get asked to sell products all the time, and I just don't feel like that's what the Lord wants me to do with it. Is monetize it and profit off of it. So um, right now I'm doing what, more than I expected. And so if it does grow, great. If it drops off and people lose interest, I'm fine with that too. So I really,
Yeah.
yeah, I hate to be anticlimactic, but yeah,
Just kind of wherever God guides you, and
where, wherever he leads me, wherever he leads me.
that's been our motto as our ministry grows, and a lot of people are like, well, are you going to become like CO13 or whatever it is certified, or are you going to become like a nonprofit organization? And we're like, no, like we're just gonna, we're a ministry. We have our sponsors that help us out to feed and serve the community, and they don't ask us for any of that stuff. And we're just going to go wherever God is going to guide us. He'll provide for all of our needs, and that's our motto, as Isaiah 54:11, where God guides, He provides, and that's what we live by. So if we're not just our ministry, but our life and our marriage and everything, is we go by that Bible verse nonstop. But man, I appreciate it. I hope to have you on here more often
Yeah.
to share your amazing humor and your dad jokes and your love for Jesus.
Well, you're too kind, and it's been my honor and pleasure. And holler at me anytime.
All right, I will, man. God bless you.
You as well. Thanks, John.